All right, guys, we got a lot of big news to cover that's been going on over the last few days, man. So if you pay attention to the local news here, you may have already heard they caught a couple of the suspects so far, two now. There's a third out there on the loose in the murder of the 7-year-old girl, Jaslyn, whose nickname was Pinky. And one of the guys is an 18-year-old. He was the first one that they caught. Now, these guys have not folded on the third guy yet. Okay, so, I mean, we'll see what happens with that. But this is the first guy that they caught. He was the driver. He was not one of the shooters. And he had been driving a car that, allegedly pulled up by Jaslyn's father's car. And his street name is Richway Tilla. This is all some Vice Lord beef, okay? Most of the stuff that's going on out west is finballs into it with each other, okay? Four Corner Hustlers beefing with other Four Corner Hustlers. Vice Lords beefing with other Vice Lords. One faction beefing with another faction. The CVLs beefing with the TVLs. For people that don't know, that's conservatives and travelers. You got UVLs, unknown Vice Lords. You got a bunch of gangs that run under the Five, run under the Diamond out there just beefing with each other, okay? And back in the day, this is something that, wouldn't have been okay, right, when you had a lot of structure in this stuff. But today, this stuff is all falling apart, and it's basically just neighborhoods going at it with each other. So this guy, Marion, you can see he's got the face tattoo, okay, that distinctive face tattoo. This is in one of his social media posts that he had posted before the incident with the little girl. With the face tattoos, it's easy to identify somebody. I highly advise people not to get tattoos anywhere, okay, especially face tattoos. And this isn't necessarily about the police, but I'm saying like just anybody in general that you get into it with. I'm saying if they go and tell this person and that person, I'm into it with this person, and people are trying to find you or whatever. It could be anybody that's trying to find you for any reason whatsoever. If the description that they have is, Hispanic male, black male, white male, whatever, 5'6", 150 pounds, this style hair, okay, there might be a lot of guys that fit that description. But if you have a face tattoo, that makes you stand out from other people in your same demographic, your same age, your same height. It's a distinctive feature that only, in most cases, you have. You know what I'm saying? So I highly advise against that. It makes people, okay, and I'm not talking about the police, but I'm saying just anybody, it makes people a lot more able to find you. So anyways, man, this particular guy, he was the first one that was being charged, and these are some heavy charges, even for the driver. And this should send a message to everybody out there that's doing, that's driving on these hits. I'm not telling you to, curb people and, don't give them rides, but, a lot of times, like, gang members will get off at some op, okay, when you're in the car, when you're driving them, like to the store or whatever, and you didn't even know they were going to do that. You know what I'm saying? And then you have to do an awfully good job of convincing a jury that, you had no idea that they were going to do that. So I'm not saying that was the case with this guy. I would remind everybody that everybody is innocent until proven guilty. Prosecutors on Sunday charged a man in connection with the fatal shooting of the 7-year-old girl. This is being reported by CWB Chicago. This took place at the McDonald's over on Kedzie and Roosevelt, and that's a very lit intersection. I always used to go there on lunch break when I was substituting at Marshall High School. That's right up the street at Kedzie and Adams, and it's a little far to walk, but it's like right up the street. And that shopping center right there, there's always stuff going on over there. So it's hard to get away with a crime over there because that's a very active area on the police scanner. So he's also charged with trying to carjack a family from Las Vegas on the Eisenhower Expressway. So this guy, his name is Marion. He's 18. He had 2 felony juvenile cases pending. And this is another thing that, a lot of people in the news keep bringing up, which is that, guys who have felonies are being let out and they're committing other felonies. This is a big issue right now in Chicago. And, these were not light felonies. One of them was for burglary. The other one was for looting. And the other one was for possession of a stolen motor vehicle. So, I mean, that's pretty significant. In the system, had these cases pending when he participated in the murder. So he was previously convicted in juvenile court of a gun charge, possessing a stolen motor vehicle, criminal trespass to a vehicle, burglary to auto, and attempted residential burglary as a juvenile. So the assistant state's attorney said that Jaslyn was sitting in the front seat of her dad's car when he pulled up to the McDonald's menu board on April 18th. At the same time, Marion drove a silver Audi into the lot and pulled up behind their car. 2 gunmen stepped out of the Audi's passenger side doors and opened fire on the father's car. One was armed with a .40 cal pistol. The other one wielded an AK-47 style rifle, and I'm not sure exactly what kind of rifle it was. They didn't say. They just said it was AK-47 style. The men then returned to the Audi and left the area. Police found 45 shell casings at the scene. Marion never got out of the car. Chicago cops pulled Jaslyn from her dad's car and drove her to the hospital in a squad car. An officer administered CPR as they sped towards the hospital, but the little girl was pronounced dead from 3 gunshot wounds. Her father suffered a gunshot wound to the torso, and he survived. So about 2 hours before the shooting, Marion posted a video to social media that showed him driving an Audi while wearing a red New York Yankees baseball hat and a black coat. 2 passengers in the car are allegedly seen in the video wearing the same clothes that the gunman wore at McDonald's, and the social media footage shows the backseat passenger holding an AK-47 style rifle. So Facebook got these guys booked. Chicago police found Marion's social media post and quickly identified him and the passengers from previous contact that officers had had with the men. So the cops already recognized his face. And the other thing, I need to remind you guys, the Chicago police have a social media division, okay, that monitors social media. So if you're on Facebook, posting guns and all this stuff, and you're in a gang and you're a person that's already known to police, it's basically like doing it right in front of the cops at the police station. Like everything you're doing right in front of the police. You got to think of it in that way. You know what I'm saying? So Chicago police found Marion's social media post and quickly ID'd him. And on Thursday, the police tracked him to an apartment way out in the suburbs by his Facebook use. Undercover cops staked out the complex where he was and allegedly saw the distinctive Audi sitting in the parking lot. Cops watched as Marion emerged from the apartment with a tan backpack and got into a stolen Dodge Durango. Officers tried to box him in, but Marion repeatedly rammed a parked car until he was able to drive away. Police followed the Durango until it crashed on the Eisenhower Expressway near Mannheim Road. Marion got out of the wrecked SUV and ran into the interstate's traffic lanes with the backpack. According to the allegations, Marion, brandishing a handgun, began pulling on the driver's door of a Land Rover that was carrying 5 occupants, including young children in safety seats. Marion allegedly fired a bullet through the driver's side window and pulled the driver out while the rest of the family remained inside. The driver was cut by flying glass, but the bullet did not hit anyone. An undercover officer who was searching the wrecked Durango heard the gunshot and saw Marion pull the driver from the car. The cop pulled his gun and moved to the Land Rover, where he allegedly saw the top of a handgun sticking out from under Marion's thigh on the driver's seat. Marion refused to show his hands and made repeated motions toward the gun. The officer fired 5 rounds at Marion when the SUV began rolling back towards him, and 1 bullet struck Marion in his shoulder. So the officer then reached into the car, retrieved Marion's gun, and took the 18-year-old into custody. An AK-47 style rifle was allegedly found in Marion's backpack. Lab tests linked the rifle and the .40 caliber handgun that Marion was carrying to the McDonald's shooting. Prosecutors on Sunday charged him with 18 felonies, including first-degree murder, 3 counts of attempted first-degree murder, aggravated vehicular hijacking by discharge of a firearm, and 6 felony counts of aggravated discharge of a firearm. They said that, quote, he turned the 290 expressway into a crime scene, and for those of you guys who don't know, 290 is the expressway that runs through the west side out to the western suburbs. You'll hear a lot of people from the west side claim 290, and if people say, I rock with 290, that means, like, they hang out with guys from out west. The west side is the most violent side of the city of Chicago, numbers-wise, and that 290 expressway is called Heroin Highway because there's a lot of stops off that highway where people from the western suburbs come to buy drugs on the west side, and 60% of all I believe it's the heroin, I could have that wrong, it could be the cocaine or some other drug, that's sold in the city of Chicago is sold on the west side, even though it's like, one of the smallest sides. But anyway, so, there's a lot of drama that goes on off that 290, okay? This is not the first time that cops have used Facebook to, get at guys like this. Okay, now there's another guy who was just caught after Marion was caught. And he didn't snitch, but like I said, they had all this evidence from the video and from the Facebook and all this other stuff, so it was very easy. So a second man was charged on Tuesday with murder in connection with the death of the 7-year-old. And this is according to authorities after police had charged the 18-year-old. So a guy named DeMond, he was charged with first-degree murder and first-degree attempted murder in Chicago's Homan Square neighborhood on Tuesday evening. So he was apprehended on Monday evening following a SWAT situation in the city's Lawndale neighborhood, and that's one of the most violent neighborhoods in the city. At approximately 6:51 p.m., police placed the suspect into custody following an investigation over in the Lawndale neighborhood, and the individual was taken to Area 4 Police Headquarters for questioning. Jaslyn was fatally shot on April 18th. So they're not yet saying that this guy DeMond was one of the 2 shooters, but they are charging him with attempted murder, and that's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of confusing. They said that the 2 individuals unidentified who were the shooters, still haven't had an ID placed on them. So I don't know if they've named this guy as one of the shooters or what. But they said that the gunman got back into the car after they did this. As the victim's car began to pull forward, both men got out of the vehicle and opened fire again. So police shot and wounded Marion. However, this guy was not shot, but now he's facing charges too. And they have not said yet, at least not that I've seen, if this guy was one of the shooters or not. Now this brings up a point that I'm gonna say again. I've made it in other ways and other times in videos. I do not recommend anybody, not just gang members, not just criminals. I do not recommend for anybody in the city of Chicago or any place that is like the city of Chicago as far as what's going on here, to have like an active social media account where they are posting like up to the minute activities, pics of what they're doing, statuses showing where they're at, this type of stuff. I just don't recommend it. I don't recommend having any like personal Facebook or Instagram or anything like that at all. Really, I mean, if you're living in the city, man, I mean, if you happen to get into it with somebody, and this could be over anything, what I'm saying? A lot of times people that aren't even in the streets, like they get into it with somebody over a girl, money, like any issue, what I'm saying? If you've got social media, there's so many ways that a person can, find out about you, find out, what you're doing, where you're doing it on your social media, and you're depending on yourself to not make a mistake. Well, eventually, what I'm saying, people are bound to make mistakes and slip up. And especially when, guys are just out there doing it recklessly, posting their location all the time, posting pics with each other, with, their friends, showing their family, giving, angles on the image where it shows their location. I mean, bro, not doing that at some point when you have a Facebook and you're on this thing every day, or an Instagram or whatever, not doing that at some point is almost impossible. The best thing is just to not have one, because it's like that carrot on the end of the string, it tempts people to chase clout. Like Facebook and Instagram, it really is like a clout chasing lane to be in when you're on these sites. And you got to look at it like this. If you're not making money on these sites, that's the only reason why I, would have like a Facebook or an Instagram, if I'm somebody that's, always got issues with people or whatever in Chicago, man, like for a business, to promote a business, if you got a clothing brand or whatever, you got some other business, whatever, you can promote it on social media, that happens a lot these days. But like, I'm talking personally, bro, it's a ton of just incriminating. And I'm not talking about incriminating to the police. I'm talking about incriminating to anybody you're into it with, like anybody that wants to get you. Could be another family member that you got into it with, like anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just don't want to give anybody that heads up about what you got going on. You know what I'm saying? And it always gives like some hint. Even if it's not, even if you're not posting your location, even if you're not saying I'm over here or I'm over there, but they check, who's following you. They look at your friends. Okay, now they can hit one of them up, or they can check out their page. You know what I'm saying? And maybe, they connect dots. They put the pieces of the puzzle together, and, they see everything that you're posting, and, when you're posting it or whatever, and, who's hanging out with you and all that kind of stuff. Like, it just gives people too much insight into your business. It ruins a lot of stuff. It really does, man. And I'm not even just talking about stuff that threatens people's lives. I mean, like, even like, relationships, friendships. Like, it messes a lot of stuff up, bro. I highly recommend not having one. And then there's a couple other things to pay attention to here. One is that the girl, Jaslyn, she was sitting in the front seat, okay, as opposed to the back seat. So with her height, I doubt that she was actually visible from the back side of the car. And also, I don't know if the car had tinted windows or not. That would be an important detail. But people all over on social media, they're coming at these guys like, these guys are somehow worse in what they did than what every other gang member doing drive-bys, and, hitting up cars and stuff like that in Chicago was doing. It's doubtful that they knew that the little girl was in there, okay? Again, because of the visibility. That's one. And number two, if you're pulling up behind a car, firing it up, which happens all the time here, there always could be little kids in there. You know what I'm saying? We just had I need to drop this video too. We just had a guy charged in shooting the little baby on Lakeshore Drive. And, if you're torching up a car, there could be anybody in there. If you're torching up a house, there could be anybody in there. And it's like, you're just basically playing Russian roulette, like doing this randomly. So these little kids, if they're in there and you hit one of them, now you look at the heat that's coming down on this case versus the heat that comes down on some of these other cases where just another gang member is hit. It's a huge difference, right? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, dudes coming at these guys like this or that, and the other guys who do this in Chicago are just like, gang members that everybody idolizes and glorifies. It's all part of the same activity. You know what I'm saying? And it could happen at any time with any of these guys if they're, just firing into a car or a house, which happens again all the time. So like I don't, differentiate any of this stuff. It's all just gang banging activity, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that like these guys are, that they did something worse as far as the judgment call that they made than any other gang member that's shooting up somebody's car and doesn't just happen to hit some kid by chance. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, that's all it is. If you sign up for this stuff and you're going to have to do stuff like this, the odds are there, you know what I'm saying, at least in some form, that you might hit an innocent person at some point. And then you're going to be looking at really all day. I mean, this guy, the driver, he was just a driver. He's 18. He might never see the light of day again 40, 50 years from now. You know what I'm saying? When I'm dead, you guys are, grandparents, and, this story is like just a distant memory. You can't even remember it. He's still going to be sitting in that cage. Think about the length of time that we're talking about here. He's only 18, bro. And he might never see the light of day again. You got to think about this before you hop into the streets, because once you hop in, try saying no when the homies want to ride. It's like the pressure at that point is so great, So you gotta be able to just say no from the start, because once you get into it, man, it's super hard to get out. You know what I'm saying? So I know it's difficult, man, but especially with those vice lords on the west side, man. I mean, they are into it. Like those wars over there are really hot. Rest in peace to Jaslyn. And again, this is another point, that I keep making, other people have already made. But if you're in this stuff, you can't ride with your kids. You got to have the baby mama, the grandma, somebody else drive the kids, and you got to have them do that in a separate car other than the one that you drive. And you know what I'm saying? And you can never drive that car. Like it's always they got to have their own separate car, and you got to have your own separate car. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just too, you see what guys are doing IDing cars. It's just way too risky, man. You know what I'm saying? You got to leave the kids separate. There's a certain amount of risk that you can't avoid, even if you do take all those precautions. You know what I'm saying? Even if you do, even if your kids live separately, live at a different location, take a different car, all that stuff, there's still a certain amount of risk that you just are going to expose them to being part of this life. So saying I love my kids, but then gangbanging, is you're exposing your kid to mortal danger. Little kids should not be involved in this stuff at all, in any way, shape, or form. But they get involved in it by extension if they got family members that are in it. I mean, little kids are innocent. You know what I'm saying? Especially the real little ones, they are innocent, man. I know that there are shooters that are 12, 14, but I'm talking the little ones. They're very, very, very innocent, man. And, sometimes they make people who are not innocent, who are doing stuff, and, doing a lot of wicked deeds out there, they make them feel guilty just being around them. You know what I'm saying? And then they get the kids involved in the same stuff, teaching them to do wrong, man. Let these little kids live, bro. Just let them do their own thing. Let them be innocent. I mean, the kingdom of God belongs to little children such as these, and people who have hearts like little children, man. I mean, they deserve to be able to just grow up in peace. And this goes to anybody, man. There's your boy Winnie C. Report. I'm out.